So YouTube is just overflowing with RV advice. How do you know which is right? Those of us who have 6 years, some people who have 40 years, or some people just with 1 year. How do you know? We're going to talk about that in just a moment. But first, I want you to take a deep breath, hold it before exhale, and we'll see you on the other side. So I wanted to talk about this today because I've been thinking a lot about my life off of YouTube. As you know, the whole demonetization, now I'll get dinged in this video, thing has been quite rampant. The last few, they've done it again. And so, I'm thinking about where can I move this whole process, but at the same time, what am I actually doing here? And I know I keep talking about that, but I wanted to talk about first this idea of whose advice is right. And the reason I want to talk about that is that there seems to be this thing in our world right now where we can't handle anybody who gives out information that we don't agree with. And I just watched a documentary yesterday called The Red Pill, which is about a woman who's a feminist who wanted to explore the rape culture, ended up researching the male rights movement, I think it's MRN, and then really came away with a whole different take. And one of the things that's so important about this film is how hard it is to listen to people who disagree with you. And she had a real struggle with that, after a year of doing interviews and collecting information and exploring what are truth, what is fact, and how everything has a color to it. It's just not so simple. And that's true even in something as goofy as the RV world, although I noticed food and climate, things like that, religion, those tend to be real hot buttons. But I wanted to discuss that in this context because even within the RV world, there's a lot of different opinions. So I wanted to reiterate what I'm doing here. The more important question I want to ask you first is, because you know my background, is it's not about are you right? The real question is, why do we need to be right? And as long as we're sitting in a place where we need to be right about something, we're always going to have conflict and we're never going to have resolution. And that's just a real fundamental issue that was illustrated so well in this documentary, which is something that I've noticed throughout my life. And I've always been one of those people that needed to be right. It's really hard to let go of the need to be right. And the reason that, again, I'm saying that it's so important is we're never going to have resolution of real problems until we're willing and able to listen. Doesn't mean we have to agree with it. Doesn't mean we have to believe it. It does mean that if we can't listen, we're only going to have conflict, and that means war. And, I don't know about you, but I would like to live in a peaceful world at some point in time. And that brings me to what my version of RV life is really about. The first year I didn't talk about this kind of stuff because I didn't feel like I knew anything. And I was about 3 years into it before I felt like, I actually have some value and some information that I can share at this time. And so, it's been a slow process. Mostly in the last few months, I've been talking more specifically about RV kinds of things because that seems to be what people are most interested in, is the real practical stuff, which moves me into where I want to go off of YouTube. But before I say that, really, the information here for me about this lifestyle is focused on a couple of things. One is, if things go really bad and we have to walk away, that's a whole level of mobility that's very real. You can see that in any refugee situation. Two is, how do we do this differently? I spent the first couple years traveling. I'm not interested in going back to that getting out or hiding from the system. I've already done that. I'm so off the grid and out of the system. It's terrifying how much out of the system you can get. So I've explored that, and now, I'm really moving to this other idea of how can we create new systems and reintegrate and become part of a real cultural movement so that we can create positive change. Because I'm most interested in what we can create next. They say nature abhors a vacuum. If you pull out what isn't working, if you don't have something to replace it, then whatever's most powerful will take over. So I'm a firm believer in that you have to create new systems before there's a collapse. So that's really where my thinking is going with all this. And it's not something I need to be right about. It's just something I'm thinking about and exploring. So that's what these videos really are. Is it's just stuff that I've learned along the way, stuff for you to think about, and more importantly, take what you like and leave the rest, which is how I watch other people's videos. Occasionally I get a little tweaked out and I make my own response video. We are all free to do that. You know, tomorrow is Thanksgiving, and as you know, this country in America was founded on a group of people who came over here because they weren't allowed to practice their religion in the right way. Fascinatingly, then when they got here, it often became about punishing others who didn't agree with them. So I would say over the course of a very long time, we really haven't learned how to get along without this need to be right. I think this is one of the fundamental issues that we'll be seeing. One of the things I love about this lifestyle is that it's the very essence of being adaptable and flexible. If you don't like it, you can move on. The less you have, the easier it is to move around. And it's also, you know, really part of that for me as a spiritual thing is that the more internal the journey, the less external I'm interested in participating. And so I want to take you back to my 6, 40, and 1. So I've had 6 years of living this kind of life, and I've learned a lot, and there's still a lot to learn. I've had 40 years of studying things like the inner journey, the spiritual journey, the things like that that are important to me. And I've had less than 1 year of finding my place here on YouTube, because everything else I've done for the last 10 years has not clicked. So we all come to life with a lot of different kinds of experience, and I'm not here to debate or to source facts or to do any of that stuff. You're welcome to write the comments, but I'm not here to debate that kind of thing. I'm just here to share the information I've learned along the way. And for me, as I've said, my goal, this is the free stuff. This is the least valuable stuff. I have a lot of other things I really want to talk about, but they don't belong here on YouTube, which is why I'm exploring life off of YouTube. And I will be talking about that hopefully soon. But it's just something I wanted to talk about today on the day before Thanksgiving, because even though it's a day about giving thanks for what you do have, we could have so much more in this world if we could let go of the need to be right, and we learned the art of being able to listen and let go. Those two things are going to take us way further down the road than any kind of fact or belief in a truth that may or may not be real for anybody else. So that is my little hello. Say happy Thanksgiving. And I do want to say I appreciate you, all of you that are joining me here on this journey, because to me, that's the essence of what that day is really about, giving thanks. Thanks for the dog, thanks for the cat, thanks for everything that I have. Even though it's tiny, it's what works for me. And that's the kind of thing I'm sharing with you here on Survival Road. So we're going to take one more deep breath as I hope you will rise with the sun in your eyes, love in your heart, feet firmly on the ground, as together we walk on Survival Road, one step at a time. Live free, die wild, my friends, and we'll see you next time.
And you can see for 1,000 miles or more. You could aim for perfection.